We back with another video, and today we're going to be going over the Bleach Soul Resonance game that had an alpha test about roughly, I believe it was about a year ago, to be honest. So basically, we're just going to be going over the things that were in the game and basically kind of giving a little broader perspective of the game and how it actually is. We managed to get a little bit of permission to actually, obviously with these gameplay footages and stuff like that. So I'm just trying to be a little bit mindful, of course, of all the things and all that. Previously, there was like NDAs and stuff like that, etc. And of course, things that couldn't be shown previously, but now there is a little bit of permission to actually showcase and talk about the things that are actually there. And that's exactly what I'm going to do here today. I'll try to show as much as possible and pull things over that I have saved about certain specific things, so that way you can kind of get an idea. I did have a lot more images previously, but unfortunately I had a virus that did attack my PC, and I did have to wipe majority of my data. I actually had to reformat my whole entire PC, but I do have quite a tiny bit. We'll just show what I can, but that it is what it is. So now, of course, naturally every game has a story, right? So the game has a story, and doing the story, you farm to overcome characters, whatever. There's like characters in the story, usual Bleach story, and there's like weapon level limits. You're able to increase your weapon level cap, etc., like that, from like materials that you get from like the story as the farther you go, right? Basically, the story leads up to, it has 6 chapters, and it leads up all the way until the Soul Society. Of course, this is, while it was an alpha, I don't know how many they're going to add later on when the game does actually decide to release. Of course, it has a normal and a hard mode, very standard for a lot of games. Next up, you have supplies. Supplies are more of like your dungeons that you go and do to get resources. You'll have one for farming your character level, so you level up your character. You'll have one that you farm money, right? So obviously you're going to get some money for, credits, whatever you want to call them, to actually do everything, basically, because everything's going to take money. Next up, you're going to have your farm weapon level. So basically, these are going to be the mats to increase your weapon, your synchro, right? And then you're going to have your skills, the skills that you're going to be able to level up on each character. Each character can level up their skills, of course, very similar to a lot of other games that have skill level ups, just like soul leveling and all that. Now you have your trials, so you have traces of fragments, right? You farm weapon stamps, so this is going to be that dungeon that you farm very often because your stamps are basically like your equips. And then you have Battlefield Shadow, which is 2 times per week, which guarantees you a weapon stamp of gold rarity or whatever, and it also gives you items to upgrade your latest skill levels, right? So you can get skill levels as well. It's very nice as well. Then you have your joint combat. I don't remember exactly what this is. I've been trying to remember, but I just can't seem to remember what this joint combat is. I literally can't remember, so I apologize if I can't give you any information on that. Now, I did mention the stamps just a little bit ago, so I'll just pull up some images of actually what the stamps look like, so you can kind of get a perspective, right? So let me see. Let me open up something real quick, right? Pull this up real quick. So basically, we have this for stamps, right? This is going to be the stamps, right? It's going to have like a little layout texture or whatever. You're going to have each box or whatever to fill up every stamp that you need. And of course, stamps have set effects. When you have 3 of the same stamps, then you get the set effects. So naturally for this one, you would have the white Ichigo, and then you'll have white Ichigo small piece, and then you'll have Zangetsu. And then, of course, then when you're doing the Kenpachi, you'll have this 3 Kenpachi, the other Kenpachi, and then this Kenpachi, right? And then that'll be your other 3 set, right? So you can put 2 3 sets. There's a bunch of different combos and combinations you could do to get, you could go for a 2 set, and then a 3 set. And there's a bunch of different ways to do it and handle it. And then, of course, certain ones give you more attack compared to other ones. So you kind of just want to gauge what you have and what pieces and the positioning of the pieces that you can use for that. Let me see if I can find another one, because I believe I do have another image. Let me see if I can find it. So this is the other image. I apologize if you can't get a really good look at it. For some reason, it's very zoomed out. So basically, you can see there's a couple things to note while looking at this, of course, right? So basically, this is what I had on the Ichigo, and you know, these are the set effects. Of course, you see I have the 3 Kisuke set, and then I have 3 of the Tensa Sangetsu set, whatever, and then I only had 1 of the Kenpachi. And the reason I used it is because I was able to get, it gives you more damage, and then I'm able to get crit hit chance and crit hit damage, stuff like that, right? So I just put that there just for extra stats, right? Like there's gonna be that one little off piece that you might have to fill in. If you can't find the 3 slot that would fit in this position, you could just put 3 small pieces, right? 3 small pieces instead of, you know, the Kenpachi, right? Another thing that I'd like to note is right here, you can see that there's something that says passive, right? So this is going to be another little RNG factor when you do get your stamp pieces. So basically, every stamp has a set effect, right? And you're going to have those set effects. But the things that you're going to be rolling for majority of the time is actually going to be the passive, right? The passives usually come out depending on your character. So there's like classes, I guess you can say, right? So you'll have Quincy's, right? So if you're a Quincy, if you get a Shinigami character bonus, gain attack bonus, then it's not going to be that useful for a character like Uryu because he's not Shinigami, he's a Quincy, right? So naturally you would want to try to get a Quincy camp character attack bonus, right? So this is going to be one of those RNG factors, and there's going to be a couple different ones. I think it was Quincy, Shinigami, and there was one more, right? So there's going to be like 3 different ones, depending on later on how they do manage the game, and if they do decide to change anything, like maybe add bounds or something, maybe there might be more different types of passives you can get, but there's obviously you're gonna have your standard like Shinigami and stuff like that, you know. And basically, when you get those stamps that you want, you also want to have the passive for the character. So if you're using Ichigo, you want to have the Shinigami. There might be human, right? I believe it was human, right, or something like that. Human might have been the other one for like characters for like Chad and Orihime and stuff like that. But realistically, there's going to be passives, and you want to get these specific passives with the set that you want for the correct character, right? Obviously, there was quite a bit of weapon stamps that I did cover a little bit earlier, right? And I do want to kind of like go over what some of them do, right? Because there's a bunch of like certain effects. So I'll just go through each stamp set. So basically, we'll start off with the Kenpachi set. So basically, 2 set increases the wearer's crit damage by 37.5%. 3 set of it, every time the wearer is switched onto the field, the penetration dealt by their attack is increased by 75% for 5 seconds. This effect can be triggered once every 10 seconds, right? So as you're doing your swaps and stuff like that, it's really nice. Next up, you have Urahara, Giden Sage tracks, right? And it increases the wearer's attack by 35%. So you get a good attack increase. This is a really nice set. And then when the wearer is switched onto the field for every 5 seconds or more on the field, they gain a 60% all-type damage increase for 5 seconds. This effect can be triggered once every 10 seconds, and it disappears when the character is switched. So basically, this is going to be used for your main DPS majority of the time. If you want to have increased damage, you want to use this, right? It gives you attack and it gives you damage increase, right? Next up, we have the Yoruichi set. Increases the wearer's defense by 35%, and then it decreases all damage received by the wearer by 20%. This is usually mainly just used on your support characters, nothing more. Next up, you have Tosen, which is Kaname, and basically you have increases the wearer's health by 28%. And then your third set is basically when the wearer is switched off the field, all enemies, all type resistance is decreased by 15% for 15 seconds. This effect can be triggered once every 20 seconds. So this could be used on a support or a sub DPS character, or a character that you're just using your battlefield skill for. So he's really good, and this is really good on Tosen if you do not want to use him as your main DPS and you're just using him for his battlefield skill. Next up, you have Byakuya, the Blooming Sakura, and it increases the wearer's attack by 35%. And then its third set effect is every time the wearer deals damage to an enemy, all their subsequent damage dealt is increased by 30% for 10 seconds. So this is the reason why I was using it on Renji, because Renji attacks very frequently. I mean, there's nothing more to it. It also gives him 35% attack. Let me originally go back to the original post now that I kind of give you a perspective on kind of how the stamp sets are. Now we go into challenges. So now for challenges, we have Operation Denrei, Roguelike Ta Impale Down. Right, so I don't know what they were going on about when I'm reading this from whatever the heck they typed out. But basically, it's like a little roguelite mode where like there's like boxes and stuff like that, and you kill Shinigamis, and you walk throughout the map and stuff like that. And basically, you kill enemies and stuff like that. And you get like little buffs and stuff. It's a very simple mode. It's nothing crazy. It's fun, I guess, sometimes, right? Next up, you have Death Battle Feast. Basically, there's 3 different bosses, raid bosses, and basically you get a scoring on these raid bosses, and they're very difficult. Like, you need to do perfect timings, dodges, stuff like that. I believe Kisuke, in my opinion, is probably the most difficult of the 3 bosses. The 3 bosses are Ikaku, Byakuya, and Kisuke, right? I'm pretty sure it was Byakuya, right? I could be mistaken, but I'm pretty sure it was Byakuya, but for a fact, it's Ikaku and Kisuke. Those were 2 of the raid bosses. And basically, you fight them, and you get a score depending on, obviously, how fast you beat it and whatnot. So let me see if I can find an image for it. I should have one around here somewhere. I'll pull that up real quick. Okay, this one works fine as well. So basically, this is going to be the image, right? I apologize if it's zoomed out again. I don't really know how to zoom this thing in. Basically, you get a damage score, and then you get a time completion score, and then overall that will give you like your total duel score. All-time highest is just basically, this is always going to be there depending on like what you had. So previously, before I got the 8,000 full score, I had 7,260. That was my previous score. Now it's, it's 8,000 because I full scored there, right? And there's 3 different bosses, right? So you're able to get a lot of score between, these three scores, right? The 6,000, the 2,000, and the 8,000, right? So that's going to be roughly about 16,000, I believe. 16,000 score, right? And there's 3 raid bosses, so if you have 16,000, 16,000, it's going to be 32,000. And then it's 54,000, right? So the maximum score you can get is 54,000, roughly, right? Between the 3 things. So I'll pull that up real quick and kind of show you how like the ranking looks. Okay, so here it is. Basically, obviously, I was participating in the actual, alpha test or whatever you want to call it. I did rank very highly. I was 3rd in terms of top ranking, right? I did manage to get 54,000, like maybe like an hour after or something like that, but when I had originally took the image, I had only 53,603. Not that it's important. So basically I was 3rd, right? Like, so I do know my fair share of actually doing the actual event and stuff like that. It's very tough. As you can see, there's Rex has also done this, and also Palm Q. They have also did they've been working on it, and they did the 3 raids and got max scores on it. What did happen was when you were doing the actual event or whatever you want to call it, the feast battle ranking, it's like 3 times a week or something like that, that you're able to do it. So like each raid boss, right, like you're gonna get the scores weekly or something like that. Basically what does happen is, even though we had the top scores and we were the top 3 players for the rankings, what would end up happening is if someone else ended up getting a 54,000 score, overall score, then they would technically be first and all of us would get bumped down by 1. So it was really bad, like, implementation of a ranking system of like how fast you can score. It should have been whoever's 54,000, once they are already locked in place, they have their score and that's the highest that they're at, they should be right there, right? Like once you're at 54,000, the peak, whoever obtains it first, it should all be timed on whoever has 54,000. So yeah, I don't know, it was just really weird and very awkward. Like by the end of the beta, I was basically like 20 or something, even though I should have been 3rd. Because I mean, I was the 3rd person to actually get 54,000 score. Obviously not on this image, but I was the 3rd person to get 54,000 score. So naturally I should have stayed 3rd, but I didn't because of how the positioning works. The next first person who gets 54,000 would be on first, and then everybody would get bumped down. Whatever, I already talked about that. It was really bad. Hopefully they fix that. Most likely they will, but yeah, this is basically how the ranking thing looks. And then of course there's rewards for it. Normally I'd have images for the rewards, but like I said, PC kind of, virus attack or whatever kind of got wiped. So I'm not going to go too deep into it. Next up, we have the route of holification. So several mini bosses before the final boss. And basically, these also give you some little nice rewards as well. I do have an image for that as well. Not anything crazy. It's just me doing the actual fight. It was more so to showcase the damage that I was doing with Renji, but I'll show it here anyways. I'll pull it up real quick. See if I can get this. Okay. Anyways, so basically this is the route of holification, right? This is one of the places. There's like multiple different places in route of holification, but this is one of them, right? And it was like in this little lab, and there's a bunch of like, hollows that would just spawn, and you would just kill them, and then obviously there would be a boss, and you kill the boss and stuff like that, and whatever, all that good stuff, right? I did want to note on that Feast Battle ranking that I did do previously, on that, everybody was using like SSR characters and stuff. I did that with Renji, by the way. Renji is not an SSR character, he is actually an SR character. So you can use SR characters to actually progress in the game. I beat the whole entire game and did the easy and hard mode and all that stuff with an SR character. So I'd like to say that the game is decently fair with you being able to use SRs, because a lot of the SRs are actually really nice, right? So yeah, you don't always have to use an SR character. You can use a character that you like, right? I played a lot of the SR characters, and they were actually all pretty decent and really good, and you can actually use them in the actual content, right? So you don't have to feel like you're inclined to use an SSR character if you do not like any of the SSR characters that are actually currently released. Now we're going to continue going with whatever that's left, right? So that's going to be Root of Holification, right? And then all three are linked to a store for each mode with its own currency, right? So yeah, like it's basically going to be like this whole collective store that you can go to and exchange for things, fragments and stuff like that. I believe there was like a Renji Synchro in there, and a Renji Dupe and stuff like that. There's a bunch of different good shit that you could exchange for in there. So yeah, there's going to be a store for the three of them when you go to that page, right, for the challenges. Next up, you have your training. Naturally, your training is like where you go to train, right? Like you go to a mode, and then it's an invincible boss, and you're able to test all the characters that you have and stuff like that. Really good. Next up, we have events. You have Shinigami Business Diary. This is basically like a milestone beginner missions, right? So like you would basically do all these missions, and you couldn't complete them all at once. It would be over a course of 7 days, and you would basically, by the 7th day, if you were doing all your dailies and all the daily requirement missions, at the 7th day you would get a free Bonkai Ichigo, which is basically an SSR, and then obviously resources, right? So it's really nice. And then there's a new Shinigami Sanin co-bonus, right? Well, I don't know why it says co-bonus. Basically, this is just a sign-in bonus. It's like a little sheet or whatever. It had like a bunch of items that you would get, like, so it'd be like day 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and then so forth all the way until 30. So it was just like one of those basic ones, and then it would show you each reward that you'd get for each corresponding day, right? Next up, you got Operation Dolls. You catch stuffed animals to obtain rewards, including jades for summoning, right? So it was a really nice event. I do have an image here. I'll pull up the image real quick. So basically, we have this, right? And basically, in this image, as you can see, the Shinigami Business Diary. So this was the milestone reward, like beginners missions, and then this is just the normal Shinigami sign-in event that you had, which had rewards. And then the Operation Doll, so basically like you'd have like these little token things that are on the top right, and you'd use these coins/tokens, and you would just collect dolls and stuff like that. And then at 100, 200, 300, and 400 and 500 milestone, there would be like rewards and stuff like that you can get for free. And obviously it had some nice jades in it as well, which you could use for summoning and stuff like that. So it was actually a really nice event. This isn't super important though, because we do not know if we're actually going to be getting those same events when the game actually drops, but I just wanted to cover it just real quick because those were some kind of events that they did have, right? Next up, you have your missions. These are daily, weekly, and story missions, so just like anything else, you're going to have your daily mission, your weekly missions, and then your story missions are one-time onlys. Matchas, this is just typo or whatever. This is basically your gacha. You're going to have your characters, and then you're going to have your weapon banner, right? I do not have an image of the banners, right? But I do have the image of like the summons, like how it looks when you do summon a character. So we'll just pull that up real quick. So basically this is how the summons look like when you do summon for a character. This is how it looks, right? Like the layout. Overall pretty nice. Nothing crazy, right? So you have like these are equips that you equip onto your character. They're kind of like synchros or whatever you want to call them. Pretty nice. And then of course you could get like stamps too, but the stamps aren't that important. It's alright, right? And then basically that's going to be the summon banner, right, for the character, and then you're going to have one for the weapons. The weapon banner is going to have something of similar. Let's just pretend, bro, it's just like, you have your normal character banner and then your weapon banner. Overall pretty good, with the 0.6% for characters and then 0.8% for weapons. And then you have the 80 pity on characters and 70 pity on weapons. Nothing of crazy importance. Pretty standard for a lot of games. 0.6 is pretty low though. because I mean most games usually adopt like 0.8 to like at least 2%. So I don't know. This is very low, but luckily there is a pity, so you'll eventually get something. Next up, you have your open world quests. So you have Keyskate training for testing all of level 1 characters. So basically, this is like if I remember correctly, this was like where you could like do combos and test stuff like all each character and stuff like that, so you can kind of get a feeling of the character. Next up, you have challenges that pay a few jades. Right, so you do X amount of combos, no hits, etc., blocks like that. You get those as well from when you're doing your story. You gotta do combos. You gotta not get hit. You gotta block a certain amount of times. That does get very tedious, especially if the enemies are very difficult. Next up, you have the Urahara store, which basically lets you sell and exchange items to customers. Pretty standard. It's just like a little store. Spend gold on and stuff like that. Next up, you have Cone. So you go on patrol 3 times a day to get rewards. Nothing crazy. Like you just walk around, talk to Cone. He's in the main lobby area where you can walk around in. You have Yoruichi, a cat. So basically, you talk to Yoruichi, and basically Yoruichi is just sitting there on top of a garbage can, if I remember correctly, or I could be mistaken. It could be on top of like a little perch or something like that. But basically, you talk to her, and basically she gives you rewards, like depending where you're at in story. And yeah, I mean, pretty standard. Then you have the characters available, right? So these are the characters that are available in the game. Again, they have like some weird like typing skills or something, but it's okay because luckily for you guys, I do have an image of the actual characters, all of the characters in the game, because luckily I was fortunate enough to pull every single character in the entire game on the release. And these are basically the characters and their typings. Of course, do keep in mind these are subject to change, but we have Kenpachi, we have Renji, we have Ikaku, we have Kaname, we have Yachiru, we have Kisuke, we have Orihime, we have, I believe this is pre-Soul Society Ichigo, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, that's pre-Soul Society Ichigo. That's like where he has the big sword before it turns into like how Zangetsu is now, like before with the Shikai and stuff like that. And then you have Uryu, you have Rukia, and then you have Byakuya, and then you have Bankai Ichigo, then you have Chad, and then you have Ichigo from the Soul Society with Zangetsu, with the Shikai and everything, right? So basically, this is you're gonna have 3 different Ichigos, and then you're gonna have your other little roster of captains and stuff like that. They're all really nice. Kenpachi has more of a slow type gameplay. I do believe Kaku did show some footage of that. I will be showing the footage of the gameplay as well. Then of course you have Ikaku. Ikaku has more of a charge up, like he attacks very rapidly, and he has some nice combos, but then once you get his ult out, his ult basically transforms him into his Bankai state, and then he does enormous amounts of damage, rapid amounts of attacks. I mean, he feels very sluggish, but he does crazy damage, crazy break, crazy everything. He does so much damage very rapidly, and he just ramps up as you charge the meter on his Bankai, right? Because like, of course, it's very similar to his, to his lore or how he is in the actual series, where he has the little meter that charges up on his Bankai, right, on his weapon. So basically, it's the same like that in the game. He does even more insane damage when you do fill it up, right? He starts rapidly attacking, his attack speed increases, stuff like that. It feels really nice. Then you have Kaname. Kaname has so many dang passives. It's insane how many passives he has and how much things he does. He has like an extreme wall of text, stuff like that. But yeah, I'm not going to keep going over it. There's just too much to talk about each individual character, so that's going to be into a different video. But basically, these are going to be characters in the actual game. Let me see if I can pull up any other images that are important for the game itself. So let's pull this up, right? So basically, obviously you do story, and then as you do story, you'll be able to get mats that let you ascend and stuff like that. So this, you have your ascend, your weapon, your skill, your boundary, and then your weapon stamps of the characters. Next up, you have your weapon and your synchro, right? So like your characters will have a weapon, and then they'll have their synchro, right? And the synchro, you equip them, and it gives them extra effects, right? So this is kind of like if you play Honkai Star Rail, this is basically like your light cone, right? Like you get additive effects onto the character. You can use other synchros, but of course, using their synchro is the best bet because it gives them the best. It's literally the best for them because it gives them like nice effects to them and to the character, right? Like they cater to the character itself, right? So that's going to be the weapons. Let me see if I can get to the skills real quick. So basically, these are going to be your skills, right? You're going to have your evasion, your block, your normal attack, your ultimate skill, and then your normal skill, right? And then basically, naturally, there's going to be the skill level up mats, and you can level up each one to, of course, increase the additive effects of what they can do and stuff like that, right? And your damage output, of course, like your modifiers. So going back to when I did talk about the actual synchros, this is one of the synchros. As you can see, this is Renji synchro, and basically this thing you can see as it basically is for hit Renji, right? Like obviously you get weapon attribute increase by 40% and stuff like that, but it also increases, like it does extra additive effects for the character if you give it to them, right? Damage dealt, will be increased. The attack speed will also be increased, stuff like that once you get to your 5 stacks and all that. So yeah, they're very nice for the character. Naturally, you're going to be wanting to use the same synchro for your character as well, right? So getting the synchro for that specific character is going to be very important. Now, before I got sidetracked and backed up a little bit and, talked about the synchro just real quick, next up that we had on our list was the boundary, and basically the boundary is basically like your dupes, right? So it's like the dupes for the characters. So the dupes have like a very long line of actual things that you increase to. So this is just going to be one of them. This is going to be Renji's. So basically, I'll just read it to you if you can't see it. Basically, the critical hit chance of the normal attack, Branch Baboon, Fangs, 5 slashes, Sky High is increased by 30%. And if the attacked enemy is in the state of Reiatsu exhaustion, the crit hit chance is increased to 40%. Right? So basically, this is like when you break them, right? Because they'll have like a little meter or whatever. Once you break them, then he's going to do 40% crit hit chance, which is super nice because this character is like all about his normal attacks. He's all about hitting really rapidly and doing normal attacks. And the fact that he has this 30% crit chance, you just don't need to build so much crit damage on the character. You could build a lot more crit damage and a lot more attack. And he outputs an insane amount of damage. That's why I think he's one of the best SRs in terms of DPS characters. Plus, he's able to break and inflict Reiatsu exhaustion to an enemy very easily, just because he attacks so frequently and so rapidly and like multiple times compared to other characters. A lot of his skills have a lot of good control, where he could pull enemies, knock them back, CC them for quite a bit of time. He's very nice in terms of like he's a safe play style because he has long range, because his Zabimaru attacks so far. And you could just pull enemies to you. Like he has really nice synergy with all his skills and attacks. And of course, last on the list on your character menu is going to be your weapon stamps. So basically, each of your characters is obviously going to have weapon stamps that you equip things onto. This is kind of the weapon stamps that I kind of went with for Renji, and I basically beat all the content with at least all the content in the alpha that was available with Renji. And yeah, he absolutely demolished everything with these sets. Keep in mind, this is only level 25 because it's a 4-star and not a 5-star, but it's his and it's really nice for him, so I used this one on him, right? It's a really good weapon stamp for Renji, so that's why I used it. But yeah, that's basically gonna be it, right? Like, obviously, do keep in mind a lot of this is subject to change. Of course, it might be a lot different on the release, but of course I'll cover that. I mean, that's basically going to be the foundation of and structure of the entire game, right? Of what they had. Hopefully, everything is relatively similar when the game actually does get revealed or, released, and we get more information on that. But realistically, that's going to be the foundation of how the game is and how you would farm in that game and what you would normally do and the banners and stuff like that. So yeah, we'll see when the game actually comes out. But other than that, that's basically going to be the end of the video. It was a very long video, longer than I would normally like. I know it's probably going to draw a couple people away just simply because it's so long, but I mean, there's a lot of information that has to be put out there from the actual game that I just wanted to show. There's way more information that I could show if I did have the files, but again, I apologize for not being able to have them as of, wiping my PC and basically reformatting it, so that sucks, but I mean, it is what it is. There will be another video showcasing or talking about the characters themselves and what they do. I'll give you whatever information I have of those characters, but I might not have the information for all the characters. So yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.
行くぜ。 よくやった。どういう心境の変化か、駒村君。
なぜそうして笑っていられるのだ、アイゼン。我ら全員をたばかった貴公の裏切り、わしは決して許しませぬ。貴公もだ。当然当然、何か弁明でもあるなら言ってみろ。ないのか。残念だ、当然。
そろそろ終わりにしようか。終わりだ。
決断天使
砕ける。強化水月。いい余興だ。
決断天使
かわいそうに、まだ息があるのか。
決断天使
そろそろ終わりにしようか。
決断天使
感情的になるところに君の弱さだ。